Hi, Martin.
Hi, Niels. We're talking about your book, Organized for Complexity. I only have this one marker here, and we already covered this topic. So what you did is you sent me the electronic version, which it's already also an ebook, right?
Yes,
I can have it on my Kindle. As I had the electronic version, I started searching in it.
Yes.
I searched for Wiki.
Yes.
No matches. I searched for Jira. No matches. I understand that you don't have Atlassian Jira inside.
Yes.
I was searching for software. One match.
Yes.
It says something like software companies like Google.
Okay. It's not very specific to the software developing audience.
Does this mean that everyone, like the audience that I will draw into this video, is very likely to be in software business somehow? So they're interested in buying software from us, deploying the software correctly. They're most likely to be creating software themselves.
Yes.
So this isn't for those internet and intranet nerds like me, or is it?
I think it is, because there are so many books about software development and agile and Scrum and topics that interest us a lot.
On every second agile conference, they get you the keynote speaker.
Yes,
right?
and I think one of the reasons they invite me is that I'm not making such explicit points about the software industry. Everybody else does that.
If you have Niels in a talk, buzzword bingo has to have different terms.
Yes, I think what this book is really about. This is the first book of a trilogy of books. There will be a series of 3 books.
Oh, so
the second book.
The Complexity Tools is the second.
The second book exactly was just launched in Germany, in German, and it sold 7,000 copies or so already. So the second book will be called Complexity Tools, and it's. This one was published in 2014. Probably in 2016 we will see the second book appearing in English, and there will be a third book. So this is like the Star Wars,
do you want to
original Star Wars trilogy or something.
Spill something about the third one?
No.
I've read the Complexity Tools in German.
Yes.
So if you know German, you should definitely get this Complexity Tools book from Niels and Silke. Tell us about the third.
No, I cannot talk about the third book.
But
that's a secret. I know what it's about. Yes,
okay.
yes. I know what it's about already. But
do you know about the authors already?
About the authors?
Yeah, can you spill something about the authors?
Yeah, no. The second book was written by myself and Silke Hermann, and the third book will also be written by the two of us.
Yeah, I was expecting.
So let's say that only the first book of the trilogy is written by myself alone.
We can only do these videos where I don't know whether I'm doing wrong here, but I'm a chaotic, and I've found that Silke, at least apparently to me, enhances you greatly with her talents, and so I'm very happy to hear that she's going to be on board for your third book as well.
Yes. I always thought this was my 4th book, and I always thought it was impossible to write a book with another person, and I still believe that it's impossible to write a book with another person. Okay. But I'm doing it nevertheless, Okay. That's the kind of logic.
That's
so the
telling
second
us a
book
little
is
about the pain that she probably has with working with you. But
yes, it's a highly complex process to write a book together. That's for sure. Let's say that this book, Organized for Complexity, it focuses on the basic thinking tools that you need to create an organization that is truly agile. And
we're coming back to the question.
Yes, coming back to this question of software industry and why Jira and Atlassian do not appear in the book. This is very. I believe that this is the foundation of a whole new organizational model. Many authors these days write about new work, new organization, and our desire to get there, and about some examples, companies like Google and Toyota, or maybe Bootzorg in the Netherlands and so on. So we talk a lot about this. We have a lot of desire to create the new organization. But in order to see this kind of effectively working, complexity robust, alive kind of organization, we have to get the thinking right. And this is a book about the thinking behind it. This is about how do you have to think to imagine an agile organization with 200,000 or 500,000 employees. And you are totally right. This is not the book where you read about how to employ social media or, let's say, wikis intranets to make it happen. This is not yet the book. In the second book, as you know, this appears a little bit more prominently. So how to make information, what to do with information to enable this kind of radically decentralized, networked, agile organization.
My answer to the question I pose would be, when I'm listening to Atlassian themselves, like Jay Simons, for example, their president, giving a keynote at their biggest user conference, Atlassian Summit. And in the last 3 years, you could condense this into every company is a software company, so you better get better at creating software, and our tool will help you do that. That's a very, very short thing. So basically, what I would answer is, Niels doesn't have to use the terms Wiki, Jira, software, Atlassian here, because this is inherently important for every company. Like, if you build
not just for the software development. Right?
Yeah, exactly. If you build cars, you're a software development company today. Like Tesla, I've learned, is deploying new versions of their software into their cars multiple times per month, which is a very complex and also responsible task, because if you're doing that wrong, your Tesla car could just, like, I don't know, lose the brakes and then kill someone inadvertently or something. So you better be very reliable in your software development process. If you update your cars like this, and they do, and like pharmaceutical companies, they're using iterative agile processes to become not faster, not more efficient, not more effective, but to become more reliable in their
more
processes. Robust. Robust. Anti-fragile is a term that Nassim Taleb would probably use.
And you probably noticed reading the book that we also invented a couple of new terms in this work to help organizations describe themselves and understand themselves better. It's important to develop a better language to create better organizations, you know. And I also agree, the notion that something like the perfect software, the software that is ready, that is finalized, exists, is a crazy concept. We have to be more iterative in our work. What I heard from your statement, or what you said about Atlassian, it sounds to me as if the whole potential of their software suite hasn't really been recognized yet. It is far more than something for software development.
Yesterday
ultimately it's like an information autobahn or infrastructure that is highly useful for any kind of innovation work, any kind of project work, of course, and also for any kind of, you know, intelligent sharing of information and learning. I think it's more a learning suite than a software development toolset, you know.
Last December, they have gone public, and yesterday today they have their first earnings call.
Okay.
And yesterday I've published a blog post on whether you should buy Atlassian stocks or not.
Yes.
And
you want to contribute to the hype.
Only trying to get more viewers.
Yes.
No, I think what you said is one of the main topics that will decipher in the long term whether Atlassian is going to be successful and prevail as a public company. Like, how good are they in seizing and convincing business teams, non-technical teams, that the type of communication that their software tells people to use is worthwhile. And as I assume that this is very compliant and very compatible with what you say, and at the same time I think that the things that you say about management, about org physics, are very good applicable also in very big companies. I do think that they have some potential that they can leverage. At this point, the majority of the turnover comes from people.
Software development.
Yeah,
of course.
so they are these software nerds. If you go to this conference, you can take two hands and then you have everyone in a suit and a tie. And there are 3,000 people there.
Yes. I think what Atlassian software is very good at potentially is to enable better collaboration. And ironically, many softwares could do that. For example, if you look at the whole world of ERP systems, SAP and Oracle and so on, those systems also have a potential of empowering people, giving them more information.
It's a task.
But what we do then, what IT departments often do in most companies that employ SAP and Oracle systems, is that you slice and dice the access.
Yeah, absolutely.
So every department only has its own slice, a little bit of the data, but not the whole data. So afterwards you ask yourself, okay, now we have SAP working here, the fantastic software, but nobody is acting in a more entrepreneurial fashion. And the answer is they can't. They don't have more information than they had before. So maybe they had less because the slicing and dicing worked so well, in a matrix way with
the best way to describe this in a very current circumstance is if you look at SharePoint from Microsoft.
Yes.
One of the world leaders for intranets, and Google Docs, spreadsheets. I would say like the one leading collaboration suite for documents. And I admit that Microsoft has catch up on the web, but it's still like Google is leading the pack there. And you compare that to Atlassian, for example, Confluence. Then there are two things that decipher those. For SharePoint, if you create something new, for Google, if you create something new, it's closed by default. So you create a document, and it's only viewable by you in SharePoint. That's the default.
It's not open by default.
Yeah, it's not open by default. Which is the case for Confluence.
Yes.
And
that's a radical paradigm shift.
Yeah, it's just like how you see the world, how you see collaboration in your company. So you close it up by default, and you get a closed culture. You get a information that's not available, although it could be, but it's not accessible.
Yes.
And for Google, for example, that's a little better. So if you, for example, have Google Apps for Work, you can create documents that are by default available to the others.
To that community.
But it's only read access. So they can't write, they can't comment. It's still like, if I saw this on Google the first time, I was asking me two questions. First is, didn't you get it? So didn't you get that it would be much better to have it open by default, as Google is a company that kind of gets that? Or are you so smart that you've already understood that most of your users are still in a world that needs this closed by default thing, and that they will be totally blown away by, oh, everyone can see that now? I didn't want that.
Yes.
And that's something that we see with Confluence a lot.
Yes.
That before exploiting the software, people have to understand why transparency is something that I want to have.
Exactly. I think that's the big big differentiator for any company that buys Atlassian products, or also Google Docs also. The big question should always be, do we want to be radically transparent or not? And I think that question isn't asked so often.
No, it's on the green table. Like when
when
there's
you ask
no
yourself,
practical.
what's the good tool, and not how do we radically improve transparency?
And also it's.
But maybe we should ask ourselves first in this discussion: why is transparency crucial to be successful?
That's what I want to say. Like on the green table, if you're only in theory, everyone agrees that full transparency. For example, in a software development process with Atlassian tools, we call this also full traceability, which kind of sounds weird to especially German people, but basically it's about like the developer knows what the manager wanted in the first place. What's the big goal about this silly task that I got, and the manager can see how far do they actually code on my stuff? Is that deployed already? Is it available to our customers? So in theory, everyone agrees that this would be nice.
Yes.
And then comes the but, when the reality kicks in.
Yes.
But we can't trust those people.
Transparency, but that could be the name of the error, of that mistake, right? Transparency, but or the Atlassian paradox or the Atlassian dilemma.
Yeah. Okay.
You want the software, but do we want the software to drive radical transparency?
Yeah.
That's a big question, right? For the business, from the business perspective as well.
And it's often something that we don't get into deep enough because we're only in the how do we do that right now. It's
yes,
not,
you want to sell the software licenses, right?
Yeah, you could say it like this. In often cases, we already sold the software license,
yes.
and they already decided that they wanted to have it,
yes.
and they feel embarrassed or disturbed when we ask these silly questions. That would mean that they have to go back to their management and ask, like, what did you want in the first place? Did you want all this transparency, or should we have it like the closed down fashion that we have today?
What I have come to, I think one of the issues around this is that if we want to see massive change, massive improvement in organizations, there should also be we always have to work based on principles. And to me, transparency is one of the core 12 principles. So it is also one of the laws of the Beta Codex that I describe in this book, Organized for Complexity. Transparency is one of these key principles. In complexity, if you want to have many or most or all people to make decisions, responsible, business relevant decisions, you have to give them the data. You have to give them the information, actually. Yeah. You have to give them information so that they can make smart decisions on their own.
Yeah.
It is not about bosses telling people, oh, now you have responsibility, which we called empowerment in the 1980s and 90s. It's about enabling people to make decisions on their own. So transparency is not even disputable. We cannot even discuss it. In complexity, transparency is like turning the light on so that people can see. It's absolutely, it's undisputable.
What I see
it's like
a lot
oxygen
is,
for an organization.
What I see a lot is in those very big companies. Like I did a video interview recently with someone who's working in a 20K employee company, an American company, and he said we have a need to know knowledge management culture.
Everybody gets exactly the information that management thinks. That employee has to know.
Yeah.
That is diabolic. I hear that a lot in German companies as well that I consult with. Yes, That's a horrible thing, right? That's like need to eat. I put into your fridge what I think you need to eat.
Yeah,
that would be a horrible notion, right? It's a horrific idea.
Yeah,
no,
but as long as you have access to all the information, it's not that bad to have the people down not having all the information. But as soon as you are somewhere where you're locked out of something, it gets very, very annoying.
Yes.
And this is also something that comes down to trust, in my opinion.
Yes, but I think maybe what Atlassian should do is also, once we sell software, or what you should, just imagine in principle, you know, if you buy our software, you should think about the blood pact that should go with it. And the blood pact is, of course, this kind of tool, IT system, software, is perfect for enabling everybody to see everything in principle.
Yeah.
If you don't do that, if you don't make a blood pact pro-transparency, you lose much of the potential. And of course, many companies, managers, clients don't have that awareness.
At this point, they don't,
or they lose the awareness during the implementation process.
They don't do that. They let people use the software they want to do it. And we do see customers use it like a content management system. So everyone can see, no one can change.
Yes, but they can write. Just the bosses can write.
Yeah, they
that's
have
a crazy idea.
Yeah, but it's happening.
It follows the logic of command and control, of dividing thinkers from doers, of information has to flow within silos and it must be controlled by managers. Yeah. That's the logic that we talked about in the other video that we must overcome. You cannot, if you want to have everyone in the organization innovate and create ideas and solve complex problems, you cannot imprison the information. And be consistent with that message. You know?
What can I be locked out? Is there a fence that people cannot overcome? Is there something that needs to be Like, for example, Google has this PageRank thing, a thing that deciphers
whether
whether
like
you...
the Coca-Cola recipe.
Yeah.
And they have the PageRank secret.
So
the
we,
algorithm
do
secret.
we agree that this is not shared with every employee?
I think the notion that this kind of thing is a secret is nonsense in itself. There are so many people at Google who know how the algorithm works. And it's also somehow trivial, I think. The Coca-Cola recipe, for example. Do you know the Coca-Cola recipe history? Part of the
No, I don't.
Part of the historical myth of Coca-Cola is that the original recipe is stored in some kind of
I've heard that.
steel box in.
This is still true for me
in Atlanta, Georgia.
Yeah.
And many people believe that is true, that the recipe is there. But that's nonsense. I mean, Coca-Cola is being produced, even the syrup is produced in many locations. So, and many people know. I mean, we know the basic ingredients and so on.
Yeah.
So anyone with basic chemistry knowledge knows what it is about. But we like to preserve the myth, nevertheless, the secrecy myth.
So there's nothing.
Ultimately, the
that should
secret
be
to
shared.
complexitiveness in complexity is to be ahead of the competition and not to maintain a secret about your current competitive advantage.
But maybe
The real secret is not the algorithm, it's the head of Ray Kurzweil and Hal Varian and Google employees in general. I think that's the treasure box.
So what I get from your answer is basically you don't see any default information that should be locked up.
There are some companies that have some kind of secret information, the recipe for whatever chemical it is, or that exists, but it is rare. That can be locked away. But business information, a typical thing that I often discuss with my clients, I mean, I consult to senior managers and transformation teams and so on. And they have this worry that, for example, disclosing financial information within the company to everyone could be a dangerous thing.
Yeah.
And I say, no, there's no danger of publishing your profit and loss statements and key performance indicators and all this financial data to everyone at any time, publicly.
What do you think about
information theft? Is not done by lower employees today. It is done by middle management. People like us who already had a career.
People like you and me.
Yeah, people like you. And me.
So if you have a lot of money, come to us and we'll disclose.
No, I mean, and I think that even that has become obsolete with hacking and all that kind of stuff. So there's no danger in internally publishing your data, your information, even about the financials and so on. That should be public. Because, how can employees responsibly reflect upon innovation, a project, an investment, something that they will stand back? Even do I have to travel or not on this? Should I travel or should I take use Skype?
Last question for this video. How about like information transparency, salaries, greed? How about greed? Or envy?
Yes.
So now everything was closed up. Now we see all this financial data, and we see all the salary levels. And I now see that
yes,
you're not better than me, but you get 15K
that is true. I actually I ferociously advocate transparency on salaries as well.
Yeah, I should have said that first.
That's an important, and why is it? To demystify the question of salary and who earns what and of fairness. Equality is not the same thing as fairness. Those are two different concepts. So fair doesn't mean equal. If you have three children and you treat them equally, that doesn't mean treating them fairly, because probably among your three children, each of one of these children is different. So you should treat them in a differentiated, different way, each of them. The same goes for the question of salaries. Salaries shouldn't be equal, they should be fair. And one of the drivers of non-fairness, of unfairness of salaries within organizations is intransparency.
So it's easy to give this one guy a 10K extra bonus because no one will see that easily.
In today's organizations.
Yeah.
In tomorrow's organization, it should be natural. If I want to give you an increase, I should naturally think about not just is this increase necessary, can we afford it, is it what you need, but we also should think about, okay, how does this relate to some other people's salaries within the company? Is it in balance? Is it fair? Is it appropriate? And
how
also,
about
would I like to explain your salary increase to another person's salary increase tomorrow, or another person's salary tomorrow? And so transparency is an incredibly potent driver of control.
How about the embarrassment that I have myself, having created a unfair salary structure in the first place? Now I disclose all this
even
stuff.
That happens sometimes.
Yeah.
For example,
So you think
in principle it is unfair that if you hire people during a crisis in the economy, in the marketplace, you can hire them for low salary, and then there is a boom again, and you can pay the same kind of competent people, much higher salaries, and sometimes you sustain these inequalities.
Okay, now I go
over years or decades.
Now I opt for transparency.
Yes. And then let people bitch around about it and discuss it, and let's agree on it.
Just go
people
through the
are
problem.
adults, yes, and we shouldn't paternalize people. We shouldn't be thinking that people cannot deal with inequalities and a little unfairness or something. They can deal with it, and we should discuss this kind of stuff. We should put it in the open and solve it, and let's get over it. Of course, making salaries transparent means, in a larger company, means that people would drink a lot of coffee on the first day to discuss it. But then get that out of the system.
That's a good end. I think our cards are full at this point. Let's see when and how we can do more videos.
Let's make a little cut and have another video.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks for watching.